perhaps 5% of votes cast by absentee. Now we are looking at nearly 50%. As of today, we are looking at over 900,000 votes that will be cast for the November election, and we are still 2 months away. Let me reiterate this. Every double voter will be investigated thoroughly. A double voter knows exactly what they are doing, diluting the votes of each and every voter that follows the law. Those that make the choice to game the system are breaking the law. And as Secretary of State, I will not tolerate it. As I said, I am working with every county to assure that double voting doesn't happen in November. There are those that want to try and game the system, and that can't happen. We need to make sure every county is doing the necessary work of election administration in a timely manner. The laws, rules, and tools we have in place should keep double voting from ever happening. This is something I want to continue to focus on, and our new election system gives us great tools to combat any kind of double voting, gaming of the system to protect the vote of all voters now and in the future. As our investigation continues, I will keep you updated. Our vote and our individual rights are my top priority. None of this is easy, but it's all vital to securing our votes. The security of our vote is paramount. As Secretary of State, I will continue to work every day to protect our rights, and with that, our republic. Thanks so much for coming here today. I don't know if anyone has some questions. It's a big topic. Mark. Okay. The question was about absentee votes. We had 150,000 voters that applied for an absentee vote and then showed up on election day to have that vote canceled. There are 1,000 people of that 150,000 that actually double voted, knowing full well that they had filled out an absentee ballot, had mailed it back in, and then showed up on the day of election. We're talking about 1,000 people statewide. That was just a handful. It was really about 100 counties what this occurred in. Right. It gets back to really the system worked fine. It's not the system, it's really voters. And sometimes I'm sure that people show up and say that they knowingly know what they're doing. The 1,000 people knew what they were doing. There's no excuse under the law for double voting. Absolutely. Double voting is a felony. It's a minimum of 1 year in prison, up to 10 years, up to a $100,000 fine, and we will prosecute. It's the human element, yes. But at the end of the day, the voter is responsible for that. The voters knew what they were doing. It's not the system. It was the county election officials, but also is the voters knowing what they're doing and then putting pressure on them and taking advantage of the system, the protocols that the counties had in place. But it's really the voter that bears responsibility for that. They mailed back their ballot. They knew that they had a ballot that was back. They knew what they were doing. This is absolutely, no one gets to vote twice. Everyone gets one vote. We hope that we have strong participation of all segments of society. Georgia is one of the few states, if not the only state, that kept all three options open. And we're going to continue to keep those three options open. So we'll have a strong, robust absentee ballot program. We'll also have the 15 days plus a weekend. I know in Fulton County they can have 2 weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, which they're allowed to do by state law. So we have a very flexible system. And then Tuesday, November 3rd. So we're expecting strong participation from voters. But every voter, you get one vote, not two. This will be, we'll be turning this over to the State Attorney General, but also local DAs and also federal prosecuting attorneys if they want to pick this up. I think it's a serious matter, and I think that there'll be interest to making sure that this does not continue and that the penalties are paid. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
How can you know the voters' motivation that maybe they just didn't know if their ballot had been received, their absentee ballot had been received? How do you know their motivation for voting twice?
That's why we do investigations.
But you just said that they went intentionally to vote twice. How do you know that?
Well, by and large, we know one person was bragging about it down in Long County, and we'll be investigating all 1,000, and we'll get to the bottom of it. Well, I believe that everyone should vote once, and you know, that's the only vote you really get. So make the most of it. Make your choice. You get one vote. Many times that those were canceled, but we actually found 1,000 that worked their way through the system, and that was really on the election officials or poll workers side. It's not the system. The system caught it, but it is something that we're going to be making sure that we get back to training on the election officials. But the voters themselves knew that they had sent back the ballot, and that they're waiting for it to be recorded perhaps, but that's why we're going to do the investigation. We'll get full details out to you as we finish up in the next couple of weeks.
And
yeah, some of those did show up in election results, but did not affect any of the results. But we want to make sure that people understand that any double voters will be prosecuted, will be investigated. If we have grounds, then we'll be sending that over to the prosecuting attorneys, and it will be taken up by a court of law.
how can
That's an ongoing investigation for from our standpoint of what we're doing.
county election officials prevent this from happening again? And do you know what the penalties are for double voting?
Double voting is a felony, so you're facing a minimum of 1 year in prison, up to 10 years, and a fine of up to $100,000. So it's a serious felony.
Can you explain how somebody could possibly have both votes count? If you say the system works, can you explain the mechanisms of how somebody could have an absentee vote and an in-person vote count if the system's supposed to catch it? Like, I guess, can you explain the mechanisms of the system that allowed these to get through and where the problems were?
It's during the election day, it gets to be very hectic. And as you're juggling many balls and many voters, if you don't go back to the system and check it off, then that's how that would actually get through. And so it wasn't recorded, you know, at the precinct level.
So
But
it is possible that people didn't intentionally double vote, but it's possible that some did. So there's no way of knowing at this point in time if any of those 1,000 or all of those 1,000 were people intentionally trying to double vote.
intentionality is not an excuse under the law. Thank you. Thank you very much.